He basically held his girlfriend at the time hostage for about 2 months in her house and just brutally beat her, stabbed her, cut her, sliced her, and he videoed it all. Talked about, hanging up the uniform, and you said you thought you left everything in the locker. That's how I was. I thought, okay, I'm closing this chapter. I still have a commitment to these victims and these survivors. I said, hey, Lil Mac, what's going on, man? And I went to grab his wrist because he's already given me a false name. And I could tell he doesn't recognize me from high school, and grabbed his wrist. My man took off like a cheetah. And I'm driving through this grass field in a Crown Vic. My partner jumps out while the car's moving. He tells the judge that the reason he ran is he recognized me from high school and he thought that I was going to rob him. And so I told him, I said, well, I'm just letting you know that I'm putting in this retirement paperwork because I'm not going to stay here under these circumstances. And I gave up at least $210,000 to stay another 2 years. But what was I going to be like as a dad and as a trainer and as a husband?
With all of these suspects that you have interviewed, what would you say is the common denominator between each of them? Welcome to the Purpose Over Pension podcast. My name is Lenny Bradley, and today we have my man, Brian Williams. Brian, thank you for coming through.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah, man. I mean, you flew up all the way from Virginia.
I did, yeah.
I feel very important.
But I feel important for you having me.
Yeah, I mean, I'm honored. I'm honored to have you, man. You have a story that's very similar to mine.
Mm-hmm.
That's the reason why I wanted to get you on the podcast. We both know Catherine, the LT's daughter. She told you that you should come onto the podcast because we would get along pretty well and our stories were very similar.
For sure.
And I'm really excited to get into this episode.
Me too. Looking forward to it.
Good. So yeah, tell us a little bit about your background, where you worked, where you're from.
Sure. So I'm a native of Norfolk, Virginia, born and raised. I always tell everyone I lived there my entire life except for the 4 years that the Marine Corps scooped me up and took me elsewhere. So native of Norfolk, Virginia. I joined the Marines, got out of there in 2006, and my dad was a police officer in Norfolk, and after I got out of the Marines, I wasn't quite sure what I wanted to do. I was leaning towards being a high school English teacher, and I thought, well, I don't have a degree for that, so I'll move back home. I'll join the police department. I'll have decent pay, benefits. I can get my teaching degree and then leave policing and go into teaching. And probably like most cops, I dealt with a few juvenile arrests, and I was like, nah, not my calling. I don't want to be stuck in a room full of kids all day. So I gave up on that dream, and policing was a lot of fun, and I was enjoying it, having a blast. And I just decided to stick it out and make it a career. So second generation cop. My career wise, what it consists of, I joined the academy in 2006. And I always say I came on at a time that was we saw the last little bit of those old school cops. From like my instructors were from the 80s and the 90s. And they just had that old school mentality, getting out there, talking to people, beating the bushes, and, just out there doing the hands-on work. And just old school detective work. That's the kind of guys that trained me. So I came on in 2006 and then hit the street in 2007. And all those guys told me, they're like, don't even think about going to a specialty unit or be a detective until you've been on 5 years. I don't know if you ever heard anything like that when you came on.
That's how it worked back then.
Yeah. And I remember specifically one guy said, he goes, nobody respects a 2-year detective. And now that's kind of the norm, a 2-year detective. We see a lot of that across the nation, and just, people move from agency to agency. So, but for me, I had that goal. My dad, I talked about him being a police officer, and he was a career beat cop. 21 years. He joined later in life. He retired from the military, and he was a career beat cop. He never went anywhere other than patrol. And so that was kind of my goal. I was having fun in patrol, and I had that 5-year goal. Like, I won't go anywhere for at least 5 years. And then we'll just kind of reassess it at that time. And so I was in patrol for those first 5 years, and I got multiple calls to come over to investigations, but I just didn't really have any interest in going to investigations. That wasn't really my calling. I didn't feel the urge to do that. And the idea of sitting across from a suspect at interview room just didn't really appeal to me. So right around the 5-year mark, shortly after my 5-year mark, I got a call from a different sergeant that I worked for in patrol. And at that time I had a supervisor I didn't really get along with. And then that supervisor transferred me to another platoon because we were butting heads. And I got the call and said, hey, do you want to come over to investigations? And at that time, I'm like, all right, I've been here 5 years. I'm going to go over to investigations, see what it's like. Didn't really appeal to me. I didn't know if it's what I wanted to do, but it was a change of pace, a change of scenery. So I went over to investigations at my 5-year mark, and I wanted to go to either burglary or special victims. My agency called it special crimes. So I went over there after my 5-year mark, and a year into it, I ended up going to burglary after a few months, worked with home break-ins and things of that nature. And a year into my time in investigations, I thought, I'm going to take a promotional test, see how I do. So I took the exam for sergeant, and 2 years later, just before the list expired, the chief called me up and said, hey, you're being promoted to sergeant. And I had an interview and everything, and he called me up and said, you're the guy. So I made sergeant fairly young in my career. I tested it 6 years on and made it right at my 8-year mark. And so the majority of my career was spent as a supervisor after that. And so I was in investigations only about 3 years before the promotion happened. And with all promotions, what do they say? Here's a good transfer. Go back to patrol and learn how to be a patrol sergeant.
Yes. Yep.
So I went back to patrol, and I was there from 2015 to 2019, and loved it. Had a great group of motivated officers, and they were hard workers, getting out, talking to people, doing stops, chasing people. I mean, they were running and gunning, and I was loving life. And 4 years into it, my attention span's about 4 or 5 year mark at any one place. And so right around 4 years, I got a call from the captain in internal affairs at the time, and nothing wakes you up after night shift and you're in that deep sleep at, 9 o'clock in the morning, like a call from the internal affairs captain. And he calls me up and he says, hey, the chief wants to know, do you want to go to special crimes and be the sergeant there? Job I never done. I never worked in sex crimes or family violence or any of that stuff. So I said, yeah, sure. Something different, change of pace. I'll do it.
So you said special crimes?
Yeah.
Is that like special victims, what we call
Yep.
SVU?
Yeah. Everywhere else in the country, it's special victims. This agency, special crimes. I don't know why they came up with that name, but that's what it was called. But yeah, special victims.
Right.
They dealt with crimes against children, family violence, and sex crimes.
Okay.
So I went there in February of 2019, and I stayed there up until I left October 24th of 2025. So
yeah. So we'll get to that.
Yeah.
But I want to touch on the fact that you were a Marine. Thank you for your service.
Oh, thank you. I appreciate it.
Yeah. So you were in the Marines from what, like 2002 to 2006?
Yep.
Funny, I was going to go into the Marines also, but my mother talked me out of it. And it was approximately the same time period as well.
Oh, wow. Yeah. My dad was a Navy veteran. He retired from the Navy after 22 years. And I think most people try to join the Air Force first. That seems to be the common theme of everybody that joins. No offense to anybody in the Air Force, but that they got the shortest boot camp. I don't want to say it's easy or anything, but it's, it appeals to people.
I got you. I follow you.
And so he was like, yo, join the Air Force. And I said, okay. So he took me to the recruiter's office, and he needed a pen to fill out this appointment card. And he asked the Marine recruiter for a pen. Rest is history. So he got me in there, was talking to me, and the Air Force recruiter, everybody joins the Air Force. So they have no problem filling their quota. So it's very hard to get into it. And finally, when I sat down with the recruiter one day, he was too worried about fixing his desk drawer instead of talking to us, me and my buddy that were there. And he goes, I told my buddy, I said, man, this guy's too worried about fixing his desk. The Marines, they want us. Let's go over there. And so we went over there. We both joined the Marines. It ended up being 3 of us that joined together.
Well, because this guy was fixing his desk.
Fixing his desk, yep.
Crazy.
So,
what was that like being in the Marines in that time period?
I went in with the idea that I was going to make it a career. Like, Dad was a career Navy guy, and I just thought, man, get a good retirement, get medical for the rest of your life. I can do that. But I had some bad supervisors there, and just, I had one deployment to Iraq. I came back home, and I worked for some really good leaders and some really bad ones. And I had some good units and some bad units. And I just started weighing the options, and I decided, I just want to head back home. I was, the girl I was dating at the time, she's actually my wife now. We've been together 23 years. And so we started dating 2 months the day before I went to boot camp. And
Wow.
so she was here going to or back home in Virginia going to college, and I just
I'm sorry to jump in. You said that you've been together for 23 years.
Yep.
My wife and I have been together for almost 23 years.
That's awesome.
Like, this is kind of scary.
Yeah.
I was 20. How old are you?
42.
All right, I'm 43.
Yep.
Just turned 43. And I started dating my wife at 21 and she was 19.
Yep. Yeah, we were 17 and 19 at the time.
17 and 19.
Yep.
But you started dating in 2003?
2002.
2002. Okay,
Yep.
we were 2003.
Yep.
Man. Wow.
Yeah, so she was here. She was back home going to college to be a teacher, and which is another reason I didn't get into teaching, because I chaperoned a few field trips. And so I wanted to come back home and just settle down and build some roots back home, and settle down and start a family and stuff. So that's what we ended up doing.
How much do you feel that your career in the Marines or your time in the Marines helped you with your transition into law enforcement?
Police organizations say we're paramilitary, is what you often hear them described as. So it was a fairly easy transition to go to. I mean, obviously different way about doing things, but different mission. You're not using suppression fire or anything when you're out on police work.
Sure.
So there's a lot of things are different, but as far as the culture, the way cops talk, the way military talks, it's very similar. And so it made the transition easy.
Okay. And were you involved in battle over there? Were you actively?
So I was with the 24th Marine Expeditionary Unit, and my job was nuclear, biological, and chemical defense, weapons of mass destruction, which, as we all know, a lot of that wasn't found over there. So my job was kind of like just filling in wherever they needed me for that day. I did a little bit of everything while I was over there. So I was there for 8 months, and most of any action, if you want to use that word, was like indirect fire, like mortars and rockets and things of that nature.
Okay.
That we dealt with.
Okay. Got you. All right. So you come back and you did a few things in between.
Mm-hmm.
You become a police officer. What's the academy like in Norfolk?
It's 6 months long, and you don't live there. It's not like you're in the barracks. You go home every day. So
Okay.
you report it's 8-hour day. It's changed a little bit now. I think they do 10-hour days now, but it was an 8-hour day. We had a tight group, and our academy size, I think we graduated 26. And that's just for our agency. We don't have like a regional academy or anything. And to put it in context, because that's probably nothing compared to like NYPD's academy, but our agency was slated for 750 sworn officers. So 26 was a good size academy. That's what we ended up graduating. I think we started with 34 and graduated 26, somewhere around there. But it was physically demanding, a lot of running, a lot of PT, and of course, got the pepper spray, and this is before tasers. Now they have the taser in there too, but the pepper spray, the defensive tactics, the defensive driving, it was all a lot of fun.
Yeah.
You got paid you're going to the range time, throwing some rounds down range, and I mean you're getting paid to shoot, getting paid to fight in defensive tactics. I mean, it was a lot of fun.
Yeah, the disciplinary aspect, how was that compared to the Marines?
Very similar.
Really?
Yeah, it was like, we talked about it a little bit earlier. I feel like I came into policing with the last little bit of those guys that were left over from the 80s and the 90s.
Yeah.
And they were hardcore. They didn't want you on the street if you weren't going to be good at the job and a good officer. So they were hard on us. I think the difference is going into it, I didn't expect it to be as physically demanding as it was.
Yeah.
And so, it was kind of it was very similar in the fact, like, when they're punishing you and making you do all the PT as punishment. But yeah, very similar as far as the physical demands.
When did you go in July of 06?
To the police department?
Yeah.
I joined October of 06.
Okay. So I went in July
Okay.
of 06.
Yeah, very similar.
Yeah. Crazy. All right. And you worked in Norfolk, but what part of Virginia are you from?
I'm from Norfolk, born and raised.
Oh, you're born and raised. in
Yeah,
Norfolk.
yep. And it's a large military town.
Mhm.
So it's got the world's largest Navy base there.
Yeah.
So I always tell everyone it has the best and the worst that life has to offer because it's a melting pot. It gets people from all over the world. We have big cargo with the coal piers there and import exports because we have all the piers for
Yep.
cruise terminals. I mean, you get everything there. So it's a lot. But it's in the southeastern part of Virginia for the listeners that aren't familiar with it. It's in Virginia Beach area in the southeastern part of the state.
Okay. I was accepted to Norfolk State University.
Yep. Yeah, right down the street from me.
Really?
Yep.
Okay. Yeah, I was accepted there. And the only reason why I wanted to go there is because my two friends at the time, they wound up going to Hampton University. And I was like, oh, I can't get into Hampton, or they already applied for it. I was like, oh, let me shoot for Norfolk. And I got in. But my parents, they said that if they got me a car, that if I stayed here, that they would give me a car. So
That's a hard sell.
yeah.
Tough to pass up on that one.
Yeah, I went to National Community College. All right. But Norfolk is known for, I mean, Mike Vick, he's a coach of
Norfolk State football now.
right now.
Yep.
Right? Okay. Yeah. And a lot of people that I knew that was born to the Navy back then, they were usually turning out of Norfolk. Like you said.
I think Norfolk's probably one of the places that everyone wants to avoid in their Navy career from the Navy folks that I know.
Yeah.
And of course, that's how my family got there with my dad being in the Navy. So he didn't, during my life, he never moved around a lot. So we were pretty much there the entire time. He did all the moving before I was born.
Yeah. So one thing that people did tell me about Norfolk is that they definitely have their hoods.
It's got some rough areas in it. Yeah. There's a lot of housing projects in there. They've torn a lot of that down now, and they've rebuilt really some of them have been like multi-million-dollar homes where they've built. But yeah, it's per capita. I know, I'm not a homicide guy by trade, but Richmond, Virginia, which is our capital, that's about 2 hours or so from us, hour and a half, 2 hours. They always lead the state in homicides, and so the goal that I always saw, they always had it written up on a little dry erase board in the homicide bay, and it said Richmond's number and then our number, and the goal was just be under Richmond. But per capita, there's a couple of years we had, I think, 62 or 63 homicides, and population size of about 220,000 people living in the city.
That's crazy.
Between per capita, we were surpassing some other major cities throughout the country, just percentage wise of homicides. And that department, you can kind of get into it a little bit later, but it's struggling with manpower. And if they see those kinds of numbers, it'd be hard to keep up with it now.
How did you guys compare to, say, Newport News?
Newport News, that's across the water a little bit. I never really worked around them too much. Its nickname is Bad News.
Yeah, Bad News VA.
Yep.
Yep.
So they have their problem areas over there as well, sure. but I mean, they got some real nice areas over there in Newport News too. And Norfolk's the same way. You got the best and worst that life has to offer in that whole area, in the whole region.
That's where Allen Iverson and Michael Vick are from, right?
Yep.
Newport News. They played for the same high school, something like that, different times.
And also with Norfolk, Cam Chancellor from the Seattle Seahawks Super Bowl championship. He played high school football at Maury, same school that I went to.
Oh, really?
Yep.
Did you play any sports in high school?
I wrestled for 2 years, I think it was.
And, okay. Okay. Were you able to use that during your police career at all?
A little bit. You get some hands-on stuff and rolling around with somebody, get some little bit of action in, get to use a little bit of wrestling moves in the defensive tactics.
Okay. So. All right. So you pretty much ran through your whole police career for the most part. You gave me a pretty good timeline. Where did you feel the most fulfilled? And at what point did you feel, I'm getting a little burnt out, so I'm going to leave at this time?
Yeah. Well, I felt fulfilled my whole career. Everywhere I went, I made the best of it. I always try to have a positive outlook on everything I was doing. I was a training officer early in my career. And I got my first rookie when I had a year and 8 months on the street, which at the time was unheard of. But I really enjoyed working with my trainer, we call it FTI, field training instructor.
Okay.
I really I had a good one. He taught me a lot. And I felt when I was done with my training, like when I was being trained, I knew I will be a field training instructor one day. That was my goal. My dad was a field training instructor. My FTI, he was really good, motivated, taught me a lot. And I felt when I was done with my training that I was more prepared than many others that were in my academy.
So I'm noticing a pattern with you. It seems like you have a knack for wanting to teach.
For sure.
Okay.
Yeah. And so, and that leads to other things, later on as well, down the line. But, yeah, I want to be an instructor. And so I got my first rookie in December of 2008. So I wasn't on the street long. And when I got my first rookie, and I went to the school for being an FTI before that. And, I was a rookie training a rookie. That's what I always tell people. That's
I was just about to say, because as you're calling him a rookie, I'm like, back then,
yeah,
the senior guys would be like, look at that rookie training another rookie.
Yeah, and I heard it all the time.
Yeah.
And I had some really good ones. I had some rough ones too.
Yeah.
That one, my first one, awesome dude. We're still great friends now. He's a homicide detective down in Lakeland, Florida, and super proud of where his career's gone. But yeah, I was a rookie training a rookie, and I was loving life doing that. I had 5 rookies back to back that I trained, and then I had 2 retrains where they were with someone else and they needed some additional time and came over to me.
I find it funny. There's something that I kind of battle with, and you're talking about you being a rookie and training another rookie. When you got on, you were
23.
You were 23. Same with me.
Yeah.
Not only are you training another rookie, but I go back and I think of how many people that were in their 40s and 50s that I was trying to tell, this is what you need to do. This is how you're supposed to do it, especially like domestic incidents and stuff like that. How much do you think, or how important do you think it is how important do you think age is when becoming a police officer? Do you think that people that are a little bit older and have more life experience make better police officers than a 23-year-old that doesn't know much about life, barely even knew what he wanted to do? I'm speaking about myself. Barely even knew what he wanted to do as a career and just doing it just to,
Same.
have something stable.
Mm-hmm.
But now we're telling people what to do on the street. And now, in your case, wasn't mine, but in your case, you're teaching another cop how to do the same thing.
Yeah. Life experience is huge. And this is not a dig at anyone that just goes to college, because I tried that too before I went in the military. And just, it wasn't my calling. And the best officers that I saw in my career, whether I was training them or working alongside them, they had more life experience. They had been around, done more things. My first guy I was telling you about, that's down in Lakeland now. He had been in the military. He was older, had already been through a divorce. And, so he had that life experience under him. And so he was kind of ahead of his time, and he was older than me. And here I'm, just 25 or so at the time, I think, probably when I was training him. And he was in his mid 30s. And so he's older than me. We're both rookies. I'm training him, but he was phenomenal. I had some that went right from college, and their very first job they ever had was the police department. And not to say that they didn't end up being successful, but their decision-making wasn't there.
Sure.
Like the people that had a life experience. And you bring up a good point about, going to domestics, and like, I'm not married at the time, and I'm telling you how to fix this marriage problem y'all got going on. I don't have kids. I'm telling you what the issue is with your kids. It's a whole nother world.
Exactly. And that's why I say, and people are probably going to take offense to this, but I don't care. It is what it is. But I think the best cops in New York City are people that are from New York City, because even if they don't have the life experience in age, they have the experience probably similar to the neighborhoods that they grew up in.
Mm-hmm.
How much do you feel that you growing up in Newport News,
Norfolk,
excuse me, I'm sorry, growing up in Norfolk, helped you police in Norfolk?
Big time. When I So at the time we had 3 precincts in our city. Now with manpower, they cut back to 2. We had 3 precincts, and the precinct that I worked in was the 3rd precinct. That was where I spent the majority of my time as a patrol officer and a training officer. And the neighborhoods that we had were the same neighborhoods that went to the school that I went to. And so I knew a lot of people out there in that neighborhood, and I use it to my advantage. And I always feel that I did my best to treat everybody respectfully.
Yeah.
Even if you got to go hands-on, when it's all said and done and you're in the back of the car, I'm still treating you like a human being, still having a conversation with you, man. Like, hey, look, this only happened because you did X, Y, and Z. Let's go down to the magistrate, which for us, that's where they do like the probable cause hearings to issue charges. It's a little bit different than I think the New York area. But that's where they do the bond hearings and all that kind of stuff. And so it's like one level below a judge.
Okay.
And so I would talk to them, and based off of how I would treat them, the next time I ran into them, they were so compliant. And they knew that I wasn't out there to hurt them or anything. It's like, this guy's actually going to help us. I would call people up. I'd see a name on the warrant list, and I'm like, I know this guy from high school. And I'd either leave a card, call, whatever I had to do. And I'm like, if someone's going to arrest you, wouldn't you rather it be somebody you know?
Yes, I've been in that situation.
Yeah. And so I use that to my advantage. I'm like, hey, tell them it's Brian Williams from Maury, things like that.
Yeah.
And I always use that to my advantage while I was out there, to kind of build trust with people. And it got to the point where they would call me up on the phone and say, hey, you treated me right when you took me down to jail. My buddy, his baby mama took out a charge on him. Can you help him out and take him down there? And I'm like, yeah, I'll take him down there. And I was just like, they were calling me to come arrest him,
Yeah.
And so it really worked to my advantage, being from policing the same city that I grew up in.
Do you also think, because one thing that I feel to be true with the NYPD is police officers can come in, crap all over a neighborhood, then head back upstate New York, head back to Long Island, and not have to worry about running into that person for the most part again.
Yeah.
Do you feel that with you policing Norfolk and also living there, not to say that you were, a bad guy or anything, but did you find that you had to be more mindful because this is also where you rested your head?
There was the hypervigilance that you have in law enforcement when you live in the same city that you police can never rest. That hypervigilance is always, it's always there anyways because we're cops.
Sure.
It's like trained, it's ingrained in us.
Right.
But when you live in the same city and you're going out to dinner with your family in the same city where you probably arrested the cook or, whatever it may be, you got to consider that stuff. And so that's why it was even more important for me to always be respectful to people when I'm interacting with them on the street. I don't think there would be a lot of suspects that I arrested that would say like they felt like they were treated poorly. Unless they just had some, thing against the police in general. But I don't think they would ever come back and say like they felt I did them wrong in some kind of way.
Okay.
And so, and a lot of that was for that reason, because at the end of the day, like, if I'm going somewhere or I'm at work, I don't want somebody to figure out where I live at, which is very easy to do in this day and age, and come after my family. And so I always had to consider that for sure.
Did you ever take home car?
I didn't when I was in patrol, but I did during my second stint during investigations.
You ever have any circumstances with somebody you went to high school with that you had to arrest or write a summons to, and they're like, "Oh yeah, I remember you. Oh yeah, you were this guy in high school, and now you're a cop, and you think you're this and that." Like, was that common?
So I had this one guy. I share this story with you. It's so funny. I was driving down the street, and I had my partner was in the car with me, and my old crew still talks about this and jokes me to this day about it. But we were driving down the street, and I saw this guy walking on the side of the street, and I said his nickname in high school was Lil Mac, and which is funny because he was gigantic. He was like 6'7" or something.
Sure, yeah.
And I saw him walking down the sidewalk, and I'm like, and I knew I saw it. I knew his real name. I won't say it on here, but I knew his real name, and I knew that he had a warrant. And so I was like, hey, I know that guy. He's got a warrant. I went to high school with him, and I remember what class I had with the guy.
Yeah.
And like him and his buddy's nickname was Termite. And so like the two of them, and so the two of them, like, they were the class clowns, and I knew them, you know, I had classes with them. And so I saw him, I said, I'm gonna loop back around and go talk to this guy. So I get out of the car and we're walking up to him, and he has a box of food in his hand, like a to-go box, and then like an orange soda in his other hand. And I went up to him, I said, hey, Lil Mac, what's going on, man? And he was like, what you mean? And I said, you're Lil Mac. He goes, and my name's Jack. And I'm like, no. And then I said his real name, and I said, and you got a warrant on you. And I went to grab his wrist because he's already given me a false name. And I could tell he doesn't recognize me, you know, from high school.
Yeah.
So I said, no, you got a warrant on you. And I went and grabbed his wrist. My man took off like a cheetah before, like he dropped the food and the drink in his hands and bolted. And before I could even get a step off the curb, he was across the street through a vacant lot and over a fence. And I'm like, my partner's running. I was like, I'm just getting in the car. That guy's fast. So I circled the block and I'm putting on the radio, and my platoon was so good. Like when, like we would coordinate, you go to this corner, you go to that corner. We had this perimeter set up instantly. He was so fast, I thought he was probably out of the perimeter, but we tried.
Okay.
Well, as I'm circling around, showing everybody his picture, he comes running out of a house right in front of me, and he gets into this car, and I'm like, okay, now it's gonna be a car pursuit. And a car pulls up, he goes to get in the back seat. And then as I pull up behind the vehicle thinking, now we're gonna engage in a vehicle pursuit, he decides to run on foot. And so I was chasing him through this empty field. And my partner at the time, it was actually not even the partner who was riding with me. It was just some guy that I said, get in the car with me. He's up here. He jumps in the car with me and he goes, let me out. I'm going to chase him on foot. And I'm driving through this grass field in a Crown Vic. And this guy's running on foot, and I'm behind him in the police car chasing him down.
Grass field, wow. Okay.
Yeah. I'm so glad he didn't slip and fall because I couldn't stop the car. Like I was chasing this guy.
Man.
And I remember my partner goes, let me out. And I was hitting the brakes and I was just like skipping across the grass. And I thought at that moment, I hope this guy doesn't fall because I can't stop this car. And we my partner jumps out while the car's moving, falls, like he's like, hold on to the door. He ends up falling. And the guy runs to this, it's a 25th Street was the name of the street, runs down 25th. And I'm in front of him now with the police car, and I'm on pavement now. So now I got some traction.
Okay.
And I noticed he keeps looking back at my buddy chasing him. And so I timed it just right. And I said, next time he looks behind him, I'm going to cut him off with the car. And so I took my police car, and right as he looked back over his shoulder to see where that officer was, I cut in front of him and stopped. And when he turned around, he just right into the side of the police car. And then that officer was able to get him into custody. So afterwards, we were sitting in the Sally Port at the jail, and I'm like, dude, why'd you run, man? Like, this is you would get a bond on this. Now you ran. Now you got more charges.
Sure.
And I'm like, and we went to high school together. And he was like, he goes, wait, we did? And I said, yeah. And I said, well, I said, you remember? I said what class we were in and the teacher's name and everything. He goes, oh man, I remember you. You were so cool, man. And I'm like, I'm still so cool. Why did you run? Like, I could have put in a good word and said you were cooperative, and now I can't do that, you know? Wow. And it was crazy because he came to court, and I'll never forget this. And look, I was a cop's kid. I wasn't the best kid around, but I was no felon either, you know?
Right.
And so when we got to court, he told the judge we were in General District Court, which is our lower court. And he tells the judge that the reason he ran is he recognized me from high school, and he thought that I was going to rob him, and that I was just dressed up as a cop, and that the police car wasn't a real police car. And he said, I knew him in high school. As soon as I saw him, I said, there's no way this guy's a cop. He's going to rob me. And he goes, so that's why I ran. And the judge gave him a year in jail for obstruction, and which I felt like, I guess vindicated maybe the right word. I'm like, thankfully the judge didn't buy that, because like I ain't never robbed somebody in my life.
That was pretty clever of him to try to say, though.
And I'll give credit where credit's due. I told him the same thing, because he got a year in jail. And in Virginia, if you get a year on a misdemeanor, you have to serve 50% of it. So he got 6 months to serve. Well, he appeals it, so he's out on bond on the appeal. And I see him another day walking down the street, and I was stuck in traffic, and I rolled my window down. I said, Lil Mac. He looks over. I said, thought I was going to rob you? Really? He goes, can't blame me for trying. I was like, I can't.
Exactly.
I'm not even mad about it. And so we went to circuit court for the appeal. And in circuit court, he went in there and took ownership from it. He realized it didn't work in the lower court. So he went in there and said, stupid decision, and fell on the sword. And he got a much less sentence and got pretty much suspended time.
I might have missed it, but what was the warrant for?
It's like failed to appear on a traffic summons, something ridiculous,
so
something
6
not
months for that.
Yeah.
Oh, come on.
Like why run? You know?
Ridiculous. Have you ever had any circumstances where you went to school with somebody or you knew somebody from the neighborhood and they had their life together in school and now you see them years later and they're on drugs or victim of domestic violence?
Yeah, all the above and more. Yeah, overdose. I've been to some deaths.
Or people that you know that you
people
went to school
overdosed.
with.
Yep,
Wow.
overdosed. And my wife, she went to the same school as well. And she's also at the time she was a teacher in the same school system that we grew up in. And so between people she knew and people that I knew, there's been a lot overdose deaths, domestic situations. Not to say that like everyone turned out bad. We got some really successful attorneys. I mean, a whole bunch of successful people as well. But yeah, drugs definitely took its toll on people that I went to school with and going to those types of things as well.
How did that affect you? Knowing that this is what this person looked like. I could look at my yearbook. I remember how pretty this lady was.
Yeah.
And now this is where she is and I'm responding to it. How did that affect you?
I'm a very empathetic person. And I often wonder like, man, what happened for it to get to that point, you know? Because at some point, and this is what I always tell people, like we were in the same position in life at some point. We were in school, we were classmates together,
Right.
We had our whole future ahead of us. And at some point you made a choice and went down this path, and I made a choice and went down this path. And either of us have the ability to make either choice that we want. You know, we both have that free will to make that choice.
Sure.
And to me, I always tried to like encourage them when I came across that, like, hey, you know, this is the situation you're in. You need to get you some help, and try to like talk to them. And of course, you know, like for the ones that we interacted with on the street, you know, when it's the death, you know, I would always just try to talk to the family and just say, hey, like, I'm very sorry that this has happened, and try to be supportive of the family and stuff like that, and share some sort of positive story that I remember about them. But the ones that were going to domestics or, you know, things of that nature, or just you might even pull one over on a traffic stop. And I mean, maybe they do have their life together, but they're just having a bad day, and you stop them for something, and just taking the time to interact and talk with them. And again, just trying to, if they are living that bad life, just trying to put myself in their shoes, figure out how they got there, and just offer some words of encouragement. As far as how it affected me when I saw that kind of stuff, I'm pretty good at distancing myself from the reality of the ugly of the world, if that makes sense. I have this way of kind of compartmentalizing it and just tucking it away to where it doesn't bother me as much. So
it's funny you say that. My thing, and I've mentioned this before, is when I took off the uniform and put it in my locker, I left everything there. Or at least I thought I did.
Yeah.
But
same.
it come out in many, many different ways.
Yeah. I was just at a sentencing yesterday, Friday. I was at a sentencing for what I will describe as the worst domestic violence case I've ever had and ever seen. The guy was a Navy veteran. He was getting kicked out for some mental health stuff and some crimes that he had committed while he was in the military. He recorded a video of him. He basically held his girlfriend at the time hostage for about 2 months in her house and just brutally beat her, stabbed her, cut her, sliced her. Just it was awful. And he videoed it all. And one of the videos that we had was 1 hour and 21 minutes or 1 hour and 22 minutes.
Straight.
Yeah.
1 hour and 20 something minutes of him torturing.
Her. Yeah. And he would play the 50 questions game. I'm going to ask you a question. And if he didn't like her answer or thought that she lied, he would beat her more. And she was a bloody mess. Her eyes were swollen up and everything. I mean, it was brutal. I just went to I'm retired now, and I went to the sentencing yesterday. He got 101 years with 25 to serve. So they suspended 76 of it, but got the 101 year sentence. And I share that with you because you talked about, hanging up the uniform, and you said you thought you left everything in the locker. That's how I was when I was finally done. I thought, okay, I'm closing this chapter. but I still have a commitment to these victims and these survivors to be there. I told them at the time when I was working their case or, interviewing them, like, I will be here with you through this process. So like, I'm not compensated for going there, but but that doesn't matter because I'm going there to show that support and, got to meet her parents and, got to, see him be sentenced and for her to finally get that justice that she really deserved, for what she went through. And so, we think we leave it behind, but it's still with us, especially when you have court cases and things like that you got to fulfill a commitment to.
Yeah, I mean, there's so much investigating involved and speaking to both parties that it just kind of gets buried into your subconscious.
Yeah.
He kidnapped. It was in his house. He wouldn't let her out. She was like handcuffed to.
So she tried to leave one time, and when she ran out the door, he chased her down, dragged her back in by the hair, and beat her to a pulp. She had to get stitches in her lip at one time, and when they were at the hospital, he was recording her getting stitches, and he said, "Play stupid games, win stupid prizes." And they told the doctor that she like fell and ripped her lip on a fence, like, the little twisted metal part of a chain link fence at the top.
Wow.
And the doctor didn't, report it or have any suspicions or anything like that. And he basically, from that point, she wasn't cuffed or restrained or anything like that, that we know of. But she had the fear of leaving because the one time she left, she got beat to a bloody pulp. So, and then she stayed. And then the only reason she was able to escape was finally one night she left while he was asleep. A lot of people say, well, didn't he sleep other nights? Why didn't she get out? Here's the kicker. The whole reason she didn't leave earlier, he had stabbed both of their dogs, his dog and her dog. They were a fairly new couple and they each had their own dog. He had stabbed both the dogs. Didn't kill them, but he stabbed them. And she feared that if she left, he would kill her dog and she couldn't get out of there with the dog. And so they were planning to go to West Virginia. I think it was West Virginia where he was from and visit family for Christmas that year. And he said, well, we can't take both dogs. We got to get rid of your dog. And this is while he's, beating her every day. He said, so you need to call animal control and tell them you found a stray dog and then turn your dog into animal control. We're going to go on vacation. And when we come back, we'll go get your dog, which we know that's probably not going to happen. And so she does. And animal control comes and picks up this stray dog, which was her dog, takes it back to the animal shelter. And once that dog was out of the picture, she felt confident to leave.
Wow.
And so she stayed there and endured because of the dog.
She stayed because of the dog.
Mm-hmm. And once that dog was safe, she was comfortable leaving at that point.
Man. Now I could see why you were fulfilled.
Yeah.
Throughout your career, because you genuinely have to care to still hold on to that.
Yeah.
And to dig deep and investigate and come to a conclusion and get a great conviction.
Yeah.
100 and how many years you said?
He got 101 years.
Wow. As he deserved.
Yeah, for sure. He deserves to serve more of it, but we had a conversation, and not for nothing, this particular case, when we went back and started looking at everything, her parents had called, officers had responded and didn't take the appropriate action and didn't intervene, didn't ask the right questions the right way. And although looking at their body camera, you could tell they knew something was wrong. They just didn't know how to get to where they needed to get to.
Wow.
And we revamped our whole domestic violence protocol and we did a case study with this particular case, and we presented it to the department, and we changed how we were doing things and basically equipping officers with more resources. Hey, when you're here, and we blurred their faces out and changed the voices of the officers on the body camera, because it wasn't about embarrassing them.
Sure.
But if you're in this situation, here's some things that you can do to help this person that they just didn't know at the time. And, no fault of their own, but, they weren't thinking outside the box. It was like, oh, well, we asked her what happened, and she said she got hit with a baseball bat playing baseball, playing softball. But they were asking the question right in front of the door, and the suspect's right on the other side of the door. She's not going to feel comfortable telling you, walk her down to your car and say, we would get on the crisis hotline. So we had to revamp how we were training officers to respond to those things, because you can't prevent everything behind closed doors, but this one could have been cut shorter,
Wow.
you know?
Okay. I mean, even just sitting here and talking about this, man, you know, like I said, we feel like we let everything go, and it just brings me back to cases that I've dealt with,
Yeah.
circumstances that I've dealt with, and it hurts. It hurts to, and there's even circumstances where it's like, did I do everything that I could have done?
Yeah.
You know? So thank you for sharing that.
Oh,
Truly
yeah.
appreciate it. Now, within your career, you, like I said, you felt fulfilled throughout it, but was there any specific time where you felt like you were truly in your purpose? This is what you were made to do, and there's nothing that could stop you from getting to where you want to be as a police officer or as a leader sergeant?
When I came back to investigations in 2019, I was in special crimes, and I never worked there before, and everyone that was over there at the time, they all thought, oh, he's just coming here to get his foot in the door and he'll go to burglary because that's where he was before. But I'd already done burglary. That wasn't my calling anymore. That was my calling at one time. And then, so I determined, if I'm going to stay in special crimes, I'm going to go in there and master the craft. And I'm going to be the best special crime sergeant I can be. And again, I'm a worker bee too. I remember the chief during my promotional interview, he said, what's the hardest part of going from officer to sergeant for you? And I said, not being the worker bee. I was like, I'm young. I like to work. I'm young in my career. And even when I made sergeant, as a patrol sergeant, I was handling calls for service, doing reports, making arrests, serving warrants. If I'm going to lead, I'm going to lead from the front. I'm going to be out there in the trenches with the guys, and the gals. And so when I was out there, I remember one time I said, hey, I told dispatch, hey, send me the call over on whatever street it was. And she sends me a message at the computer. That's just a report, right? I'm like, yeah, I know. She goes, you want me to save it for an officer? I'm like, I'm not above taking a report. I can go knock out this report.
That's right there.
Yeah, it's something so simple, and it shows your guys, you're not just sitting back in the office watching YouTube.
Yeah.
You're out there in the trenches with them, handling calls. I handled DUIs, I handled accidents. And I just felt like being out there and going over to special crimes, never having handled a sexual assault before. And you're in a unique position because you're working with advocacy groups, civilian advocacy groups. We had a civilian advocate in our office. That's very unpopular amongst law enforcement.
Yeah.
We have this culture where we keep everything close to us.
Right.
And having an outsider, so to speak, sit in on your victim interviews and kind of see behind the scenes, and you're in your office and you're a bunch of cops talking like cops. And it's like, oh, what about the advocate over there? And so like, that was something that I wasn't used to dealing with. You're working with CPS, you're working with the prosecutor's office, you're working with so many outside entities. And there's a lot of oversight as well on the cases that you handle for child abuse. You have multidisciplinary teams, you have the children's hospital and psychologists and forensic interviewers, all these people that have a say-so in how your case comes out.
Right.
And a lot of people can't accept that, like, oh, they're not going to tell me how I do my investigation. And it's like, no, we're all in it for the same purpose.
Right.
We just have different methods about going to get the resources and different jobs to get to that same end result.
Right. It's a puzzle, and everybody has their piece to
Absolutely
connected to getting justice for that victim.
And when I got over there, I had a rough group when I got there because the group that I had been there so long, they were burnt out.
Yeah.
And then I come in fresh, and as a sergeant, I can't say to you, hey, when you don't know me, we don't have this relationship yet. And I come to you and say, hey, you seem really burnt out. And I'm seeing this, where like maybe you're like short tempered, short fuse. Do you need a little bit of a break? Can I send you somewhere to just, relax for a little bit, a different job, maybe property crimes, and then come back when you're rejuvenated? Because what they hear is Sergeant's trying to get rid of me. And so I made that mistake once, and then I was like, never again. And then I had to kind of let them see that they were burnt out. And then they come to me like, Sergeant, I'm burnt out. I need to go somewhere.
How did you change that? How did you let them see it?
So my friend Jen, I just spent this last weekend with her at her horse farm, and she's working on doing using horses for therapy for law enforcement.
I heard that.
And
I've never heard of that. Actually, Catherine
yeah,
Boyle, she told me about that.
yep. So she's working on getting her horses ready for that. And we were out at her farm this weekend, and it's funny. She had right at the end of her time there, she had a really big like uh blowout, if you will, or she exploded on me one day over like why I was making her handle a certain type of case when she felt it should be another squad that handled it. And she called me up on the phone and was like, well, I just talked to this person. We should, man. And she was going off of me. And in my mind, I'm like, I would never talk to a sergeant this way or my lieutenant. Like I would never talk to my superiors that way. But I don't get mad over stuff like that, you know?
Yeah.
To me, that was a symptom of her burnout. And she wouldn't mind me sharing this story with you because we talk about it regularly. And we actually talked about it this past weekend. And she said she still apologizes to me to this day about that. And I remember after it was all over, I said, hey, come back to my office. Let's chat. And she came in. And I remember when she walked in the door, I said, close the door. And she just lost it. She's like, I'm done, Sarge. I got to go. And I was like, she goes, I'm so burnt out. And I said, I know you are. She goes, you do? And I said, yeah. And then she goes, I said, where do you want to go that you can be successful? Because that's my goal, is for you to be successful. Whether it's here or somewhere else, I want you to be successful. And she said, I think I want to go back to the precinct, back to patrol. And I said, all right, let's get you there. And she did. She went back there. And to this day, she's like, I'm so sorry that I blew up on you. Like, you didn't deserve that.
That's awesome.
You know, and hey, you've apologized enough. You didn't need to apologize the first time. I'm good. Like, I was like, you saw it. You saw what I already saw. And we got you to where you were happy. And she's at another department now, out in the western part of the state, doing great things. And so, and we're great friends. We're better friends for it. And so there's no grudge at all when it comes to stuff like that. You know, just I'm glad she saw it when she saw it before it was too late.
What do you think helped develop you as a leader?
Good leaders. Yeah, I'll throw out some names here because I know I sent you the link to my retirement video that I put together. But like Wayne Hanley is he's a chief of police in Buena Vista, Virginia. Phenomenal leader. He's about to step down, and he got his PhD, and he's going to do psychology stuff for first responders. But he's a phenomenal leader. He's my sergeant, my lieutenant for a number of years. And Bill Kelly was another sergeant of mine. Great leader. He's a chief of police out in Pulaski, Virginia now. Just got sworn in this past week when I was out there. And those two, I probably learned more about how to be a sergeant from them. And I could probably list a longer list of people that I learned how not to be. But I won't focus on them. I'll focus on the ones that helped me to be a good leader.
Yeah.
And they, and there was another guy named Frank, that was another sergeant. And he, when I was a new sergeant, I had to do a ride along with him to kind of have him train me in patrol and being a patrol sergeant. And I remember one of the things he told me, he said, you can't do a lot for your people, but you can help them out whenever the opportunity presents itself. And some things that you can do for them, stuff with like time. And he would say, like, he would tell his guys, and he would tell me to tell my guys, hey, you know, it's night shift. They don't get off till 7 o'clock in the morning. Things are dead about 2 or 3 o'clock in the morning. And he would just pick 2 people and say, like, hey, your monthlies look really good. You know, you guys got that good a rest of your day. Take the rest of the night off.
Nice.
And he's like, you know, give me a leave card and everything, nothing happens, I'll rip it up. You know, he would do things like that to look out for him. And I always respected that. And so as I became a supervisor, I wanted to do that same stuff for my folks. And my leadership style was servant leadership. You know, I know we're both men of faith, and I figured if Jesus could come here and wash disciples' feet, I can work alongside my guys and handle calls, you know, and in special crimes, I remember, 'cause I'm not washing anybody's feet, but I'll serve in other ways. So when I worked in special crimes, it was a unit that used to have about 14 people at one time at its peak, with manpower and the direction law enforcement's going. It got down to 9 was about the normal that we would have. And at our lowest point, we got down to 5 people. Now you're talking a squad of 5 that were handling 700 cases per year. And they're not the cases where it's like, oh, victim doesn't want to cooperate, you can't move forward with it. No, you have to investigate them still, you know, like especially the child abuse cases. I mean, you can't just close it out and say, oh, victim ain't cooperating. And so I remember at one time I started doing all their evidence vouchers for them, and everyone hates vouchers and dealing with property and evidence, and yeah, it's just it's
It's
not no one's
tedious.
favorite part of
It's
the job.
tedious.
Yeah. And I was listening to one of your episodes and they were talking about typewriters and stuff.
Oh, yeah.
And I remember one, I think it was my third or fourth rookie. I remember I said, all right, it was a carbon copy voucher. And I said, have a seat down at the typewriter. And he looks around the room and goes, what's a typewriter? And so I showed him and he goes, oh, so it's like a keyboard with a printer. And I'm like, yeah, it's a good way to describe it. But yeah, let me show you how it works. And so I started doing their evidence vouchers for them. They're not on typewriters anymore. They're all electronic, but they're tedious and they're a pain. And to me, I saw it was something so small that I could do, but it took so much time for them to do it that I'm like, if I just do their evidence vouchers, they can focus on investigating the crimes more. And I take that off their plate. I'll drive the evidence down there. Downside is I'm now in everyone's chain of custody for probably the next 100 years for all their cases. But that was just something I could do as a servant leader to help them out. And there was other things too. Like I remember they worked Monday through Friday, days and nights, and then they were on call on the weekends. And they chose the schedule that they had, but there was times I had to call them in 5 or 6 times in a weekend. And normally if I called them in, I was going to respond in with them. Like if I'm asking you to leave your family and come into work, I'm going to be coming in with you and we're going to work together and we're going to get you out of here quicker so you can get home to your family and I'll get back to my family. So I try to do those things. There'd be times where I'd call someone in so many times. I'm like, man, this person's going to quit if I call them in again. I'll just come in and handle it. I would go in and handle the case and keep it for myself. And other sergeants would tell me, you need to slow down, man. You're doing their evidence vouchers. They're going to start to expect all of us to do that. And I'm like, then do it. Like, then help you. Like you're playing Legos at your desk. Go do some, help them out, And there was times where we had 2 supervisors in there and they would see me doing all this for them while the other one's playing a game or something, And so, I just kind of took what I learned from those guys, those sergeants before me. And I've been blessed to have really good, and I could name a whole list of good supervisors. Those are just 2 of them. But I had a lot of good supervisors that really kind of brought me up and taught me how to be a good leader.
What's the camaraderie like in a department like Norfolk?
Oof. Within the unit, within small units like special crimes, very tight-knit group. I preach work hard, play hard, know each other outside of work. When you know someone on a personal level, you go that much farther for them at work. So for me, I was, we would do outings like, hey, let's all go bowling this Saturday. I'm gonna have a cookout at my house. Always trying to do something to get to know their families, let our kids play together, spouses know each other, all that kind of stuff. So I would say within the unit, and that's for most units, pretty tight. From unit to unit, probably a lot of infighting from time to time. Everyone always feels like they're doing the most.
Okay.
Why are we handling this? This should be on this squad. Why don't they have this? They should have this case. Well, it involves this. That should be them. And you get a lot of this finger pointing, and it's because everyone's drowning. Because that agency right now, when I was leaving, I was told the numbers on my last workday were 512 sworn. Now, earlier I said 750 is what they're supposed to have.
Sure.
Yeah. And I would venture to say from talking to those that still work there now, they've got to be 475 or something. There's no way, because they're not pumping out academies enough to replenish the loss of retirements and resignations. And they're hurting. They got to be below 500. I would be shocked if they were.
What about on the patrol level? What does that look like, the camaraderie?
I haven't been in patrol in 7 years, but from talking to the patrol officers that I know that are out there.
Or even when you were on patrol at the time.
When I was an officer in patrol, super tight-knit. We were all friends, and we looked forward to coming to work every day. And we used to have this like 5-2, 5-3 shift. And when it was like 5 days on, 2 days off, 5 days on, 3 days off.
Okay, I was going to ask you.
The whole platoon didn't work at one time. So you had like 3 different groups. 2 of them would work together and 1 would be off. And then another one would be off and the other 2 would work together. So you didn't have that you could never really do something as a group because
Okay.
you didn't. Then we went to 12-hour shifts, and then everyone works the same days and has the same days off. That did a lot for camaraderie. I think people got to know each other. Now, as years have gone on, what I've noticed with the younger generation, they want to come to work, clock in. They'll give it their all while they're there. They'll do 100%. Punch out, they go home, want to play video games. Like trying to get them to come out and do stuff is a lot harder now.
Yeah.
I don't think that's a dig at the camaraderie or that that's lacking now. I just think that their priorities are different, and I'm not saying they're wrong. Like they're investing probably in their well-being and they're leaving work at work. Yeah,
exactly. Now, how does it work with retirement and receiving a pension within Norfolk Police Department?
So it's changed recently because they just went to a state retirement, but I was under the city retirement, and so I got vested under the city retirement, which has its benefits. It's got its pros and cons, but I was so far into it when they switched to the state retirement that it was just worth my while to stay where I was with the retirement with the city. But it's with the city retirement, it's 25 years to be your normal service retirement. They call it 25 years. You can stay, and in 25 years, you'll get 62.5% of your highest 3 years.
Okay.
You can stay a 26th year and you can get 65%. You can get a little bit higher based off of sick leave that you've accumulated and stuff like that, but right around 65% is about the max that you would get for 26 years. You're vested after 5. You could take an early service retirement after 20. Anything between 20 up to 25, and then 25 and beyond is a normal service retirement.
Okay. So we're doing the math. You came on in 06, and then you left in 2025.
Yeah. January 1st, 2026 was my official retirement date.
Really?
Yep.
So you
short of the 20 years.
You cut it short.
Yep.
With you being fulfilled throughout your career, why cut it short?
So when I saw policing going the way that it was, where, starting like the defunding the police and things like that, I saw some things happening with our department where I just felt like I didn't like the direction that the organization was going as far as their values or, what they stood for and things like that. And I kind of felt the writing was on the wall that it wasn't the same organization that I got hired by. Some of the leaders they were promoting, probably shouldn't use that word, leaders, but some of the people they were promoting into positions of power, I felt like it was setting us up to go down the wrong path. And so some of them I probably say weren't even qualified to hold the positions they were holding. And so I right around my 11-year mark, I was like, man, I don't know if I can stay here 20, because pension, right? Most I can get is 65%. I'm staying 26 years.
Yeah.
And right around my 11-year mark, I'm like, man, I'm doing the math. I'm like, that's a long time. I'm like, I wonder what I can do to get out of here quicker, and cut some time off of that and still be a young man when I get out of here. And so I bought my military time back. They had basically you could finance it, and I paid a lot of money. And I don't mind sharing the number. I paid $67,000 over 4 years to buy 4 years back. And so at 11 years ish, I started making payments on that per paycheck. And it was like $651 or something a paycheck is what I had to pay. And I paid that every 2 weeks for 4 years. And at the end of that 4 years, I bought 4 years back. So I ultimately got credit for 8 years. So I was there 4 years paying on it, and they gave me the 4 years from the military time. So at the end of that, like right now, even though I left with 19 years of service, I got credit for 23.
Okay.
So that 4 years that I did in the military counts towards my pension with the city. But I'm short of the 25 or even the 26 year to get a full normal service retirement.
How were you able to do that financially? I mean, you get the pension, but I mean, you were able to buy back your military time.
Right.
So that works well for you.
Right.
Financially.
That shaves 4 years off. So that light at the end of the tunnel got a little bit closer.
Okay. Got you. But you said that you have to have something else that you can kind of pivot to as a young man for when you do want to leave.
Right.
If you do, you're sort of writing on the wall.
Yeah.
How did you start preparing yourself mentally, physically, intellect wise, hands-on wise?
Yeah. So, most police, most cops, most firefighters, first responders, we all have some sort of side gig or side hustle that we do, on the side. A lot of people, they work a lot of part-time jobs, at credit unions or banks or wherever, just various places you can work part-time. Back in 2020, I guess it was right around COVID time. Um, our cold case detective, his name is John Smith. Um, he worked with cold case homicide, a career homicide guy, and I think he was a 2-year detective, I think, and he right at his 2-year mark, and he spent almost his whole career in homicide or cold case and forensics. And he came up to me and he says, "Hey, I've been teaching these classes for this retired chief of police up in Massachusetts. I'm teaching homicide class. He wants somebody to teach sex crimes. Do you think you could do it?" Well, I felt unqualified because I'd only been there about a year at the time. Like, what do I know to teach other people? But it's kind of my theme, right? A rookie training a rookie. So I was like, do you think I could do it? He's like, yeah, you could do it, man. I'll help you develop the class. And so I started to do that. And we talked to that company for a number of years up in the New England areas where he was based out of. And every evaluation that I got back, when it says, what part of this class did you enjoy the most or get the most out of? Everyone would write the interview portion of the class, which is weird because that was what kept me from wanting to go to investigations. I didn't want to sit across from a suspect and accuse him of a crime. Like, I'm not a confrontational person. Now, my wife might disagree with that, but I'm not a confrontational person. She's going to laugh too when she hears that, but I'm not a confrontational person naturally. And so when I was sitting in, the idea of sitting in there did not appeal to me. But using my empathy and understanding and communication skills, it was something I became very good at. And I had a very good partner when I worked in burglary, fellow New Yorker. And he really taught me like how to do successful interviews. And so that was everyone's favorite part of our classes. Like, I teach sex crimes. Their favorite part was the interviewing. So we told this chief, that we worked for, we said, "Hey, look, here's all the evaluations. Everyone wants an interview class. We should do an interview class." And he goes, "Oh, I can't do that. I have a guy that already teaches it." I'm like, "Yeah, but he hasn't taught for you in 3 years. Let's bring in something new. I got a good idea." He kept shooting it down. So December of 21, me and John, who was the guy that brought me on board, our cold case detective, we started our own business and called Pinnacle TCI. TCI is Training, Consulting, and Investigations.
Nice.
And so we started that our interview course would be our flagship course. Like, this is the one, like, this is what people want, and he ain't giving it to them, so we're going to give it to them. So we started that. And then from December of 21 to now, we have approximately 15 courses, 15 to 20 instructors. We've been in 20 different states.
That's amazing.
Having
man.
classes, and
Wow.
we've reached more states than that. Like, we've had people from California, New York, although we haven't hosted classes in California and New York, but people have come to our classes from those states. So I think our reach is probably like 24, 25 states, and we've been hosting in 20 different states.
Man.
And so
Congrats.
thanks. Appreciate it. It's been a fun ride. And so I use that when I started to get burnout at the police department. That was my happy space. That was where I could go to, and I was relaxed. I didn't have to stress. It was still away from home. That was kind of the hard part, like being on the road in a hotel by yourself, going out to dinner by yourself. Like, it's not always the most enjoyable, but I loved what I was doing. My passion was there, and I'm teaching others to do the type of work that I really enjoy doing at work, that I got a lot of fulfillment from.
Yeah. Now, you mentioned something. You said that you didn't like the part in interviewing somebody for a sex crime.
For any crime. I didn't like the confrontation part of it, but it ended up being my favorite part of the job. But when it was all said and done.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. I mean, it sounds like you're doing pretty well.
Yeah. Yeah.
Now, you mentioned briefly that faith is something that is very important to you.
Mm-hmm.
And I want to get into that a little bit. But before getting into that, has there ever been a job, especially working in, was it sex crimes you said? Or
Yeah, sex crimes.
working in sex crimes. Have there ever been circumstances or one circumstance where you question your faith?
I can't think of a particular time where, I've questioned my faith or God or, his ability to see me through any storm. But I think the hardest part is like I'm a little biased when I come to the types of crimes that I investigated with sex crimes. I always say, and my buddy that's down in Lakeland, we have this debate all the time. What's worse, a homicide or a sex assault? Well, they're both terrible. I don't wish either of them on anybody, but I always say that sex crimes is the worst possible crime that can happen to somebody. And he says, no, when you take someone's life, they don't get that back. It's the same thing on a sex crimes. They don't get their life back from what it was like before the assault. There's their life before and there's their life after. And I always tell them, I'm like, well, the homicide victim, nobody knows. Like with a homicide victim, they don't know they're dead. Everyone else knows they're dead, but they don't. Like their pain and suffering has ended. Like they're gone, and it's terrible, but the family is the one that suffers as
Yes.
a result. Sex crimes is kind of the opposite. You know what happened to you and you live with that trauma every day,
That's right.
and no one else usually knows, and no one else is suffering with it, but you're suffering with it. And you never get over that. And I'm not speaking from firsthand experience, but just what survivors have told me. And I have some
Sure.
that teach in my classes with me. Like
Absolutely.
there's your life before and there's your life after, and you live with that forever.
Right.
Conviction, great, doesn't undo what was done, And so, I feel like a sex assault is the worst thing that can happen to somebody. And so for me, I think like, or even like with that domestic violence situation, like what happened, sin entered the world, and at some point in this person's life, they thought doing this, whatever that is, killing someone, sexually assaulting them, beating them, thought that was the best option for them at that time. So I'd never questioned my faith, but I questioned what can lead somebody to do this. And for me, it was more about understanding the person, because I have to go from listening to most sex assault victims being women. I have to listen to a woman tell me probably the most awful thing they've ever had experienced in their entire life. And I have to empathize with that. I have to sympathize with that. I have to listen to them, support them, advocate for them, investigate and work for them. Then I find out who's responsible. And I got to go into an interview room with this person and act like I'm their friend, when I think they've done the most atrocious thing you could ever do to somebody. And I got to go in there and be their friend so that they open up and tell me their deepest, darkest secrets. And that's the part that I got hooked to. And so me trying to understand what led them to that
Wow.
is what helped me in the interview room. And, I have this line, people always joke me when I'm, and doing an interview, and I do a lot of peer reviews where people watch my interviews in my trainings. And, the phrase that I say a lot is, you're not this terrible monster, when in reality they are. But I have to tell them that because I want them to think I'm their friend, so they'll open up and talk to me. So me trying to understand what led them to where they are, is kind of like what gets me through it, and trying to like understand them better. But it's not so much question my faith, although I do think to myself like, man, it'd be such a better world if God wouldn't allow this kind of stuff to happen,
Sure. With all of these suspects that you have interviewed,
Mhm.
what would you say is the common denominator between each of them?
Power and control, I think, is probably what drives most of them, is having that power and control over, because the vast majority of sexual assaults are going to be somebody that you get stranger cases, but it's few and far in between. They happen, and I've handled several of them, but it's usually someone that they know, and an acquaintance, a neighbor, babysitter, friend of the family. It's always somebody. Well, I won't say always, but quite
A
often
lot of
somebody
the
they know.
times.
Yeah, and so I think there's a certain amount of power that they have over the person during and after the incident, and then that control over them to get whatever they want out of that person moving forward.
We're taking it to a deeper level. What past traumas do you feel are common denominators when you're sitting in that room with them and you're questioning them and you get to the point where it's like, this is how I became this monster, but you tell them they're not, obviously.
Right.
Because you need them to share what's needed to get this case tied up and get justice for the victims. What would be the common theme that you see as far as their past, their traumas, their experiences that have led them to the monster that they have become?
It's different from person to person, but one of the more common themes that I saw was they were also the victim of abuse or some sort of sexual assault at some point, and then it was kind of like a learned behavior, and then they acted it out on somebody else. And I would always ask, so again, from an empathetic approach, I'm asking them like, hey, were you ever abused as a child yourself? And you're opening that door for them. And most times they're going to walk through it. They say, yeah, I was. Tell me about it. Tell me about your experience. I'm here for you. And then they start telling me their experience. I'll say, what was the name of the person that did that to you? And say, Tony, right? We'll just make up a name. It was my Uncle Tony. Okay. How would you have felt if Tony would have owned what he did to you? How would that make you feel? Oh, well, it would have made me feel better because of X, Y, and Z. I'm like, don't be this person's Tony. And mention whoever that victim is. And then I flip that script on them. And a lot of times that was like when they would think about it, if they were truly victimized as, a child or even young adult,
sure,
you could see the light come on. And that for me, a lot of times was that moment where they would start to own it and be like, you're right.
It's crazy how that works, because during my journey, and this is something I'm going to be speaking more about, especially after retirement, something that I've been working on is sexual purity.
Mm-hmm.
Pornography was a vice that I dealt with, and I have been blessed to meet some great men, to be in groups with, go on retreats with, and hear their testimonies. And the common denominator is the same in which you just said.
Mm-hmm.
What makes it worse is it's usually same sex.
Yep. Yeah, there's studies out there. I don't know if I can quote them off the top of my head, but when males are, whatever the age range is, I want to say for males, the sexual abuse is usually up to I forget the certain age, but when they're younger adolescent males, it'll be by a female within their family dynamic somewhere up until they get to right around the 11, 12. And then for females, it usually happens outside of the house after the years of, after the puberty years, right around the age they start spending the night at other people's houses, really kind of opens up the door for a lot of that. So I can't remember I teach it in my sex crimes too, but I just can't remember the numbers on top of my head. But it talks about that, with it being like male offenders with male victims versus male offenders with female victims, and intrafamilial and being external to the household.
You know what, Brian? I believe that God puts people in their path for a specific reason.
Mm-hmm.
Knowing that you teach this topic and knowing that pornography and sexual impurity is something that I am going to be teaching and helping men in law enforcement and beyond conquer, I would like to take part in one of your courses.
Sure.
So I could understand it from the monster side of things.
Mm-hmm.
To not so much the interrogations, but I'm sure that there's more to it that you teach in regards to, do you teach more? I don't want to assume, do you teach more in regards to sex crimes?
Yeah, so I have like 2 different sex crimes. I used to call them basic and advanced, but that, what's basic to you might not be basic to me, and vice versa.
Right.
So I have sex crimes 1, which talks about, it's sex crimes 1, how to respond and investigate. So that's basically from the time the call comes out all the way through. And then my sex crimes 2 is more of the advanced topics like genetic genealogy, working cold cases, institutional cases like PREA, when it happens in a facility somewhere. So we get into more what I consider to be more advanced topics, familial DNA testing, things of that nature in our sex crimes 2, which is called Trauma and the Survivor.
I would love to take one of your courses.
Awesome. Love to have you.
Wow.
There's another course that I'll tell you too. I teach a little bit of his material in my class with his permission, but the guy's name is Ken Morris. And on I'm having a moment where I can't remember the name of his company because he just started up his own company. But the rising tide raises all ships. I don't mind throwing another training company out there because it's good stuff.
Yeah, man. Collaboration is key.
This guy, his name's Ken Morris. He's a retired investigator with the state police. He's a criminal profiler. He's a blood stain expert. Awesome guy. He teaches on the rapist continuum. And you talked about pornography. That's one of the things that he talks about in his class. And he'll always say this disclaimer. He's like, just because you know someone that watches pornography doesn't make them a rapist, but that's a common theme between those that do go out and commit these offenses.
That's what I was just about to ask you, brother. I was going to ask you, with a lot of these cases that you deal with, cell phones are everything nowadays.
Yeah.
How much is recording a part of these cases?
More and more. It's becoming more frequent. We had one, it was a domestic situation with a sexual assault, and he recorded, actually the victim was recording the abuse taking from her phone, and the offender was so high on whatever he was on, didn't even care that she was recording it. And then she came and turned that into us. So I mean
Unreal.
Yeah. And then it got the domestic violence one that we just talked about where he was recording the beatings. So it's becoming more prevalent both in sex crimes and assault cases. And a lot more people have cameras in their house nowadays than they used to as well. So sometimes it's the one that's on the living room, table that's recording it as well. And you get evidence of those.
Crazy. I think it's really important for what it is that you do and obviously what it is that I'll be doing as well. The reason why is because as police officers, you're going out there and you're fighting this.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Like you're collaring these guys and you're taking the monsters off of the street. But even as police officers that watch pornography, we're out there and we're supposed to be taking the scum off of the streets. But a lot of that nonsense that's being watched behind closed doors.
It's creeping into the soul.
It's creeping into the soul, but not only that, these are victims that are being watched and you just don't know it.
Yeah.
And you turn a blind eye to it because it's all about you in that moment.
Yeah.
And there's a reason why there's guilt that's associated with it. It's not just surface level.
Yeah.
There's a lot more to it. Because we know that it's wrong.
Yeah.
We know that it's a possibility that this person might be forced into this or be doing it because they're on drugs and they need the money.
Yep.
And with me being a police officer, I started to think about that deeper, or with me being retired. And finding out through my studies and how many people that are in the porn industry have been abused and how many of them have been assaulted sexually and turn to pornography because that's where they felt comfortable because they've been exposed to it at such a young age.
Yeah.
And they just get re-victimized over and over and over again. And you just sitting here and talking about it. Like I've been wanting to talk about this, but I just haven't had the right timing of it. And for you to share, what it is that you're sharing with what it is that you do, I just feel like it's perfect timing, and you're truly doing God's work, man.
Appreciate that.
You truly are. And with that being said, how did you come to Christ?
I grew up in a Christian household, so I can't ever remember a time where I didn't know about God and Jesus and the Bible. My parents raised me, within the church. I got baptized in third grade, but like most people, I wandered astray for a few years and thought like, I can live my own life, do what I want to do. Not that I ever denounced my faith or like that, but it was just a matter of like, I don't need to go to church to get to heaven, and I still believe that. Like, I mean, and church is an important part of it. I go, weekly, but I was just like, man, there's hypocrisy, and I don't need to go there. I could just believe what I believe and read my Bible myself, and
Yeah.
and I think a lot of us go down that road at some point in time.
Yeah.
And I remember there was one. I have a video of this. It was a mortar attack when I was in Iraq, and I remember when these mortars were dropping around us, and I just remember laying there praying like, don't let the next one be any closer. And I was praying out loud like, don't let the next one be any closer. And then in that moment, when I was praying that the next one wouldn't be closer or have my name on it or anyone's name on it that was with me, I remember praying for the people that were shooting them, like they were shooting the mortars at us. And I remember, and this captain came up to me that I was deployed with, and I remember he came up to me and he goes, "Hey man, awesome prayer." And and it was because I was praying for the enemy. And, I told him, I said, he's like, "Man, they're trying to kill us and you were praying for them." I'm like, well, if they're successful, I know where I'm going.
Mm.
If their life is gone, I know where they're going too. And I want heaven to be populated.
Yeah.
So I felt like in that moment, I knew my fate if my number was up. So it was all about them at that moment, And so that to me was a real pivotal point. And the second thing I remember was on our deployment. I remember a convoy with our food that was coming to the base that I was at had gotten attacked. And the question was, what are we going to do for food? And never in my life have I ever been hungry. I mean, I've been hungry, but not hungry. You know what I'm saying?
Like hungry.
Yeah. Yeah. Like I've never been
You don't know
starved.
where your next meal is coming from.
Yes. Yeah. I've been blessed in my life not to have to worry about that. And so that was the first time where I was like, man. And I remember when they finally got us some food, it was MREs, which, not the best things to ever eat, but when you're hungry, they're the best things in the world. And I remember eating one, and I said my blessing before I ate. And I remember when I did in that moment, I said to God, I said, I'll never not be thankful for food, and I'll never have a meal without saying my blessing before, because it truly is a blessing to have this meal, And so those are like real pivotal times for me. And then, when we talk
profound.
Yeah. And so for me, I just, even coming on the department, there's times that, I remember praying in the interview room with suspects. I'm done with my interview. I got whatever I need as far as the confession goes, but like they're a soul that needs saving,
Yeah.
And so I remember praying with them in there, praying with people on the street. And, from an officer safety perspective, I remember there's times where I'm like sitting there like holding hands with people and like praying and having my eyes closed. I'm like, man, if they aren't serious and they want to kill me, like they could do it. Cause it's, you're in prayer with them. Yeah. You're vulnerable.
Yeah.
And, but I felt it was the right thing to do. So I just tried to bring that into make that purpose, fulfillment in my law enforcement career too.
What I was going to ask is, with these sex crimes that you dealt with and these suspects, how are you able to get through and not judge, and then also forgive?
Oh man, this is a conversation.
Can you do this? Have you been able to do that?
It's a conversation that so forgiveness is for you, not for the other person. It doesn't mean you forget, and I try to have that conversation with some of my victims and survivors. I tell them, and I say both of those because some people like one word more than the other, and I don't want to call everyone a victim if they don't feel like a victim. You know what I'm saying?
Okay.
So I say victims and survivors,
Yeah.
just for the more PC aspect of it for the title. But, I always tell them like forgiveness isn't about erasing something for them. You're doing it for you to take that burden off. And I remember I had a friend of mine was killed in the line of duty in 2014, May 30th, 2014. And that was I've experienced line of duty deaths from other agencies surrounding us and been to their funerals and done honor guard stuff
Yeah.
for our department, for surrounding agencies and police week and things like that. But that was from my agency, and he was one that I helped train. And I picked his wife up from her house. I had to call somebody to come sit with the kids, took her to the hospital. I was there when the doctors came in, said he had passed, and he was ambushed and shot and killed.
Wow.
I remember after that happened, and again, fairly early in my career too, it's 2014 at the time. I remember afterwards talking to my wife, and I said to her, I said, hey, I just want you to know, I probably get emotional saying this, but I said, I just want you to know if this ever happens to me, you have to forgive them. And she said, I don't think I could do that. This was my response. I said, you have to, because if you don't, God wants us to forgive others the way he forgave us. And she's like, I just don't know if I can forgive someone for that. And we've had this conversation a lot over the years, and she's grown a lot in her faith with this. And I said, so she, now that I'm retired as well, but she said, I just don't think they deserve it. And I said, well, it's not about what they deserve. It's about what you deserve. You have to forgive them. And she goes, do you think that situation calls for forgiveness? And I said, if it doesn't, it really devalues what Jesus did on the cross. Because how can we say that he sat on that cross, hung on that cross to erase the sins of the world, but not this one?
That's right.
And so
all sin is equal.
Yeah. And I think Francis Chan wrote it in a book. I think I'm quoting the right person, but he said something along the lines of, when we look at sin, we look at it as the city skyline. Perfect being here in New York, right? All buildings, short buildings, got the city skyline. Oh,
heard this.
Your sin wasn't as bad as my sin. My sin is not as bad as your sin. But if I'm 10,000 feet in the air in an airplane looking down on New York City, all those buildings look the same height. That's how God looks at sin. He's looking at it from a different perspective, and they're all the same. We like to say, oh, well, this one's worse than that one. At least I didn't do what you did, but it's all sin. And so I told my wife, I said, you have to, because otherwise it devalues what he did on the cross, and you have to forgive.
That's right. And not only that, you want to see her right there beside you in heaven.
For sure.
Man, that's so great. I love it. Let me ask you this. What does purpose over pension mean to you?
So we haven't really dove into how I left. So I'll tie this into my purpose over pension thought. About 3 weeks before I took my terminal leave for the department, my captain at the time called me and my lieutenant in, and this particular guy I worked for, rules of the iron fist, his way or no way. Whatever you've done, he's done it better. You're always wrong, he's always right. The type. They make it to our profession. Yep. He calls me in, and he's just giving us a tongue lashing over some case. And I had a different stance on the case, and we were going back and forth about this. And he asked me the question, do you think you're dedicated to your position enough? And he says, you're always gone, taking time off to teach for your company. And, I just got a question. I said, no, I absolutely am dedicated to this position. I've been here 7 years. 3.5 of them have been by myself, where I'm supposed to have 2 sergeants, and I'm doing the job of 2 sergeants. Part of that time I didn't have a lieutenant, so I was 2 sergeants and a lieutenant. And then I got from 9 to 5 people, so I was taking on a caseload as well for detectives that we didn't have. So I'm doing like 4 people's jobs. And I said, I could be in Hawaii on vacation, and I'm still taking phone calls in the middle of the night. I'm on call 24/7.
Yeah.
Of course I'm dedicated. And he goes, Brian, you say that, but are you really? And then he goes, I just want to tell you, the only leave I can't deny is sick leave. And I'm not the best at biting my tongue. And so I said, and normally when I get in trouble in my career, it's always been my mouth. My mouth gets me in trouble.
What'd you say? Your wife said that you're not confrontational?
Yeah. So for me, sometimes like between my brain and my mouth, there's like a filter that just doesn't exist in certain situations when I feel that I'm saying or doing the right thing or standing for something right. So,
well, it shouldn't. You shouldn't have a filter if you're saying the right thing at the right time.
Yeah. And so when he said that, I asked him, I said, are you denying my leave? And he says, no, I'm not. But I'm just letting you know what I could do. Well, why are we having this conversation then? So from that moment forward, it was in my head, the writings on the wall, like you need to start looking for somewhere else to go. And my company's done very well over the last going on 5 years now.
Wow.
And so one thing that I thought to myself when he said that about the deny and leave, I thought to myself, okay, he's got it in his mind he's going to deny my leave at some point in time. And so on October 24th, I had a vacation planned that my son and I, he's 10 years old. We like to travel around to sporting events. And so we were going to, I had a surprise trip for him. He didn't know about it. We were going to Denver.
This is October of
25. Oh, just a few months ago. So I had a vacation planned. He didn't know about it, but I got plane tickets, hotel, rental car, football, NFL tickets to see the Broncos and the Cowboys play out in Denver. I had stadium tour tickets for the Broncos stadium and the Rockies stadium. Like he's all boy. Like, so he likes to do these types of things. So we had this trip planned, and when my captain told me about I can deny anything but sick leave, I thought to myself, there's a major miscalculation that he's not factoring in. He also can't deny terminal leave. And I thought to myself, I'm at the point now, I have credit for 23 years because I bought my military time back. I could leave now and draw my pension, and I would take a penalty, a pretty stiff penalty at that. Or I can stick it out in this career to 25, 26 years, and I'll get a whole lot more money for the rest of my life. And I made up my mind at that meeting with him that if he does deny my leave and it's not just, then that would be the day that I walk away. And that came on the week before October 24th. October 24th was a Friday, if I remember correctly. The previous Thursday or Friday, the week before, we were all out at lunch celebrating a going away for another coworker. And I remember telling my lieutenant, I said, we were sitting at the lunch table, I said, oh, hey, by the way, I'm on vacation the 24th to the 31st. And he goes, oh, I got to talk to you about that later, but not right now in front of everybody. And the other sergeant sends me a text. What is there to talk about? And I responded back, he's going to tell me my leave's denied. This is not going to turn out well. And so, well, not for them. It turned out well for me. So he goes, okay, well, let's see. So we get outside. My lieutenant comes up to me. He goes, hey, Captain said your leave's denied. You can't take that vacation. And I kind of chuckled because I knew right then, like, I'm done. Like my mind was made up at that point in a split second.
Yep.
Called it a blink response. There's a whole book called Blink about it. And it's my blink response. I knew I was done. And I said, okay, well, here's your options. You can deny my leave, and I'm going to take the leave anyways, and I'll just carry me without pay, whatever you want to do. You can approve it. You can transfer me somewhere else, and I'll take it from whatever that command is. You can write me up for insubordination, whatever you want to do. But I'm just letting you know, October 24th, Brian Williams will not be here. And you're like, well, you got to take that up with the captain. Okay. Like, I'm not scared of rank. Like I've met generals. Like we all put one pant leg on at a time, you know?
That's right.
Rank doesn't scare me. And so I was like, okay, I'll go talk to the captain. So went there, captain wasn't there. I sent him a text and said, hey, you're not in your office. Are you free to chat? He calls me on the phone. Oh, I'm at home dealing with a plumbing issue. Now I'm gonna rewind a little bit. That 2 weeks prior, before this all happens, in that meeting where he was chastising us, he says, see if I can probably quote it, but he said, when it comes to family, when you're at work, your family dial needs to be down to a 2 or a 3.
Yeah. Okay.
And your family in your work needs to be up to like an 11. And when you go home, now you can turn work down to a 5 or a 6, and then your family could be like a 7 or 8.
This came out of his mouth.
Yeah. And then he tells me, you would not have your company to be able to train officers, and you would not be able to take trips with your kid if it was not for this organization providing for you. So the organization comes first. Everything else is secondary.
Yeah.
And I told him right there, I was like, I don't subscribe to that mentality. I was like, I'm not an organization first, family last type of guy. And so I kind of like laid that on the table that day. And so when he called me on the phone, I said, hey, I saw you weren't in your office. I just need to chat. He goes, well, we could chat Monday morning or we could chat now. I'm like, no, now's good. Like, I ain't waiting the weekend for this, So I said, no, now's good. And I said, Lieutenant said you denied my leave and denied my vacation. He goes, yep, Brian, you take too much leave and I need you here to supervise. And the other sergeant, he was on vacation the same time. It was the other sergeants on vacation at the same time. He takes less leave than you, and he put in for his first. So I'm approving his. I'm denying yours. Now, to me, it doesn't matter. It's not filling a patrol seat or anything. And I was by myself for 3.5 years, and I took time off, and the ship stayed afloat. So who cares?
Yeah.
And so I said to him, I said, well, I'm just letting you know that I wasn't asking for the time off. I'm not going to be here that day. And he's like, no, you're going to be here, Brian. I'm denying it. And I said, well, I know that you're not a family first guy, but I am. And I'm not going to work for that type of leadership that tells me, because I know you think I'm going to teach a class, but I have a vacation with my son that I paid thousands of dollars for back in the spring. And I might not have put it in for the leave until September, but I paid for this back in April and have all the receipts for it. So I'm just letting you know as a courtesy, I will not be here that day. And he goes, no, you're going to be here, Brian. And so now he's doubling down on it. I said, well, and I said to him something along the lines of like, I know you don't care about this. And he says, it's not that I don't care, but remember, organization first. And I said to him, I said, well, I'm just letting you know then, if that's how you're going to be about it, I'm going to the retirement office. I'm going to go on Thursday at 3:00 because that's an hour before my shift is over, before my last day. So I was like, I'm going there at 3:00 on Thursday. I'm going to sign my retirement paperwork, and I'm going to take terminal the following day, and I won't be back. And I remember he lets this long exhale out. Like I took his breath away. Like he went.
I took his power away.
Yeah.
You took his power away.
Mm-hmm. And so he says back to me, Brian, this organization has been nothing but good to you, which I can name plenty of times where it hasn't been good to me, but that's not what we're here for.
Yeah.
And he says, if you're willing to leave because you were told no one time, I support that. And I'm like, well, I've been told no plenty of times, number one, but that's moot point. And so I told him, I said, well, I'm just letting you know that I'm putting in this retirement paperwork because I'm not going to stay here under these circumstances and be told I'm not going to go on this vacation with my son. And so he doubles down on it. He says, well, and I told him too, I said, I'm not looking for your support. I'm not looking for your approval. I'm just telling you a fact. This is what's going to happen. I'm not going to be here.
I love it, man.
And so I just knew I was done. Mentally, I was done. I was over it.
Yeah.
And so he doubles down on it and he goes, well, until you sign that paperwork, your leave's denied. And I said, okay, I'll call you at 3:15 on Thursday and let you know it's been signed. I guess we don't have much else to talk about. Have a good day. I got off the phone with him. About 10 minutes later, he calls me back and he says on the phone to me, he goes, hey, what shift are you on Monday? I said, day shift. He goes, all right, well, me too. Let's sit down and talk about this. I think we can work something out. And I said to him, okay, cool. See you Monday morning. But I knew, I was like, nah, not a chance. And I didn't trust that he wasn't going to try and screw me over somehow at the last minute either. So I called the retirement office and I moved my appointment from Thursday to Monday morning at 9:30 in the morning. That was the earliest appointment I could get. And then can't deny sick leave, right? Cool. I'll take sick leave from 8 to 9:30. So I don't have to even see you. And I left my house and I went to the retirement office that Monday morning. I signed my paperwork. I came back to the office. I filled out my terminal leave paperwork. And I walked in there thinking I was going to meet with him and he was going to say, chastise me or whatever he does, belittle me, whatever he was going to do like he normally does. And I thought I would walk in there. And then as soon as he starts, I could go, oh, I already retired. Here's my paperwork. But he wasn't in his office. So I just dropped it on his keyboard. I went out, did some follow-ups on some cases. And when I came back about 4 hours later, it was on my desk signed by him and the chief. And I never saw him again. Never spoke to him.
Wow.
And so I share that with you because when you ask me what purpose over pension is, three things come to mind. One, being a man. Two, being a husband and a father. And three, being a trainer. And so as a man, I feel like I'm put on this earth to be a disciple who makes disciples. And I feel that I've tried to do that. I fall short, we all fall short of the glory of God from time to time, right?
Sure.
But I felt that I always did my best to do that in the position that I was in, the police department, with the military, the best that I could. Probably could have done better, but it was the best I could at the time. And so then that's my purpose as a man on this planet. Then I've got to be the best father, best husband I can be. And then third, and for the second part, training my son to grow up and be a man as well, and also to be a disciple who makes disciples.
Mm.
And then lastly, as a trainer, to train the next generation of law enforcement to go out there and hold these offenders accountable for any crime. But my passion is investigating sex crimes. And so I got to this point where I knew when I was done there at my agency, I knew I was walking away and my purpose there had been fulfilled. And to complete my continuing purpose of being a good dad, being a family man, and being a good trainer was to leave there and put everything I have into this company. And it allows me more time at home. Yeah, I still travel to teach and stuff.
Sure.
But I'm not on call 24/7. I'm not in the aisle 12 of Target getting called about a sex assault, going, okay, where's their penetration? And trying to whisper, and then people hear it and they're like, turn around thinking, you're some creep or something. I'm not having to get calls and be like, oh, hold on, my son's with me. I got and go somewhere else. And, coming home and getting called back in right after I just got home and all that kind of stuff. And so for me, my purpose at the police department is done. It's behind me.
Yeah.
And so I still have a lot of that purpose left to train the next generation of law enforcement. And I do that through Pinnacle TCI. And I gave up, a salary when I left. I was making $105,000 a year, which is not bad for my area and for law enforcement.
Yeah.
6 figures. So I know over the next 2 years, I gave up at least $210,000. And then the percentage that would, any pay raise or anything, all the numbers that go into it, my pension would have been much higher to stay another 2 years. But what was I going to be like as a dad and as a trainer after 2 years?
Yeah.
And as a husband, like what?
That's right.
It takes its toll. And when I was done, I was done. And so when I heard, the podcast Purpose Over Pension, I'm like, man, those words summarize why I just did what I did when I walked out. And
it's amazing, man.
And I thought that it would be harder to leave. Easiest thing I ever did. Never even looked back.
Same. One of the things that I get questioned about a lot is not even questions, but more trolled at sometimes.
Yep.
Is Lenny, you're not on the job anymore. Why are you still talking about the job?
Yeah.
Has that ever been something that has come across your way? I mean, you're not on social media as much. So if somebody's going to say that to you, they have to say it to you in person.
It's funny that you say that, because that was one of the things that the captain tried to use against me in that meeting 2 weeks prior. He said, when he said the comment about, you wouldn't take trips with your kid and you wouldn't be able to have your company if it wasn't for this job. So the organization comes first. And I don't even dispute that the organization comes before the company, because that was my main job. But I'm not putting it before my family. And so, and I'm also not going to give up the company for that job, because I'm going to eventually retire, and this company is going to carry my family for hopefully, many, many years.
Yeah.
And so, for me, when he said that, he also made a comment that, eventually you're going to retire from here and your stories will be old and you won't be able to teach anymore. So that's why the organization comes first, because eventually you won't be able to do that anymore. And I don't know if he understands my business model or our business model, because it's John and I as partners of the company, but I don't think he understands our business model. But I know that this has a shelf life, teaching. Eventually, we've all been to trainings where the videos are old and outdated. And we're unique in the fact that we share our own cases. You're not just going to come to our training and watch Scott Peterson, that we've already seen the interviews and the outcome. You're watching my interviews or John's interviews or whoever the instructor is, and they're sharing their own cases, the good, the bad, the ugly. We teach from our scar tissue, and I know that it has a shelf life. So I always try to get instructors that are still active in it, because right now I'm still fresh. It's still new to me. Like my cases are still recent.
Yeah.
But as time goes on, 10, 15, 20 years, it's going to be the old stuff. And there's things I can do to stay up on the best practices, going to conferences, things of that nature. But eventually my stories will be old. And so I hire new people to do that stuff. And so it's succession planning, which I think when he told me that, he probably wasn't thinking that we built our business that way, but we built our business that way because I worked in an organization that did not value succession planning.
Well, with a man with that mentality, of course he's not going to think like that.
Yeah.
He can't think like that.
Yeah.
His mind doesn't allow him to.
Yep. And so, I know it's got a shelf life. I know, but right now it's my purpose. And up until the day that it's not, I'm gonna, keep training officers to do trauma informed and trauma responsive and victim centered investigations, and to the best of their ability and hold these offenders accountable.
Yeah, what people don't realize is that the job, when you do it for so long, you build a certain muscle and you get a level. Everybody that is a police officer should take the experience that they have. If they don't want to, then fine. If you just want to use it as a living and for you to retire or whatever else, then cool. But I feel like if you work for a police department and they're willing to give you the training and you're going to get the experience, that you should leverage it as much as possible so that you can have the freedom that you deserve and that you need for God and his will, and also for your family and what it is that you want to do for them and how it is that you want to provide for them.
Yep.
So I love, the ability for you to pull that plug and to do it with confidence. What would you say is the key thing that allowed you to have that confidence?
I can't sit here and say it wasn't a scary decision, even though it was a confident decision, because I don't even draw my pension right now. I don't draw it until November of 2027. I had to freeze it so I didn't take the penalty.
I don't get mine until July.
Yeah. And so, I look forward to that day. It'd be a great pay raise when it comes.
Yeah.
So that was scary to think like, oh man, I'm, not going to have this money coming in and, I'm used to this paycheck. But, I do like to gamble from time to time, and I feel like it was a gamble, and I'll gamble on myself, and I'm gonna bet that I'm gonna come out on top. And so, as far as what gave me the confidence to do it, I think my family wanted me to retire a long time ago. So that knowing that I had their support, and my parents are still around too, and having their support as well, I think that made it easier. And then just knowing how burnt out I was from the caseload and the stress and just having to work for, people that just don't value you. I just put something on my story for Instagram, yesterday actually. And, it was of our, outgoing attorney general for Virginia. He gave me an award back in April called the Unsung Hero Award. And it was for my work on cold case sex assaults. And
congrats.
Thanks. Appreciate that. When I was investigating those, I remember my boss at the time, and I won't use rank, so I don't narrow it down to which one, but one of my bosses told me one day, he came in and he was like, hey, there's a meeting going on. They want sergeants there. So look busy if anyone comes in. I'm like, I am busy. Like there's no looking busy. I am busy. And he was like, well, I know. Just don't, if someone says, what are you doing? Don't say nothing. I'm like, well, I wouldn't say that because I'm not doing nothing.
Hustling, yeah.
And I looked and I said, and I have 64 of these cases. And I said, do you not see 64 case folders sitting here? And the quote was, nobody cares about yesterday's news. Man, that was a gut punch. Like, no, I care.
Yeah.
These victims care, And when the attorney general had me come up to Virginia and gave me that award, I was asked, is there anybody from your agency? Because we invited your chief's office here. Did they send a rep? And I'm like, no one's here. And they're like, well, every agency has a representative who's with you. I'm like, my family. And they're like,
that matter most.
And he goes, well, we didn't ever hear back from the invite. And I'm like, they didn't care when I was investigating. What are they going to care now? And so I said to him, when that happened, he goes, well, your department should be ashamed of itself. I said, I'm ashamed for it, but it's all right. The people that care are here, and that I'm okay with that.
Amen.
And so I end up getting that award and everything. And that's when they say things like, "Oh, this department's been so good to you," like you didn't even care to acknowledge when this happened. Like
it's over, and you're not reaching out. You're not supporting me. The burnout.
Yeah.
Before we wrap things up,
Mhm.
I do think it's important to ask, did that ever come into play with your family dynamic?
Yeah. I I think mood swings, short temper, frustration, all that stuff bled into it. And I can tell you it's night and day since I've retired.
Hmm.
People say, like, man, you look younger. I'm like,
Yeah.
I didn't realize I looked so bad when I was there, but
Yeah.
they'll say, man, you look younger. You look healthier. And I can see a difference. I'm, I'm in a better mood all the time. I'm sleeping better. I don't drink nearly as much. I still like to, have an occasional drink at dinner and stuff, whatever. But I'm not coming home like, oh, I need another drink just to wear off the day. Like that's to the point I got to, where it's like you just come home from work and you're like, oh, fourth glass of bourbon or beer or whatever you're gonna get, And so I got to that point. I'm like, man. And so now that I'm gone, sleeping better. I've lost like 16 pounds since I left the
Oh,
job.
great.
Yeah, and that was since October. So I lost weight, sleeping better. I'm in a better mood. I'm feeling better. I got more energy. Just all the way
I'm not
around.
gonna lie. I was looking at the pictures that you sent me in the video.
Yeah.
I see. Yeah, I'm like, you don't look like the same guy.
Yeah.
Like you look trim. You look good.
I appreciate that.
You look good. I think that I'm a very spiritual person, so I feel that leaving the job, there's something spiritually that just gets lifted from you. I feel like that's what happened to me.
Yeah.
And I feel like that's what's more and more people that I'm seeing retire.
Mm-hmm.
It's like I wouldn't say instant. It's a gradual transformation.
Yeah.
Some people don't even do much to change, but just they glow different.
Yeah. I think for me, because once I got to the 20-year mark on paper with my military buyback, once I got to 20 years, I thought, okay, I can leave now at any time. It's not in my best interest monetarily to do it.
Yeah.
So I stuck it out for another few years.
Okay.
But I think for me, it kind of was an instant thing because I was mentally preparing myself for it for so long that when it finally came, I was just relieved that it was here. And so
you manifested it.
Yeah. And so by the time it came, like I wondered, like, okay, eventually my pay is going to stop because I went on terminal leave for 2 months. And I'm like, am I going to get to a point where I look back and think like, man, and there was people that are like, he ain't retiring. He just acting out of, anger or emotion. Yeah. And I'm like, you don't know me very well then through this career, because when I say I'm done, I'm done. And that's where I got to the point. And I miss the cases. Like I loved working sex crimes. To me, there was no more satisfaction than, getting that survivor, that victim, their day in court, and finding out if it's a stranger case, finding out who's responsible. And I've built some very good relationships with those that I investigated cases for over the years, and I know a lot of them on a personal level, and still keep in touch with a lot of them now. And I still go to court for a lot of cases that are pending, and so I talk to a lot of those victims as well. And so I'm still kind of connected to it, but at no point am I ever going to be like, man, I should have just stuck it out 2 more years. Like that thought's not going to enter my mind. It doesn't enter now, and I don't think it's ever going to enter it, because I'm happy. I'm doing what I love, and traveling around training cops and being encouraging to them is satisfying.
What advice would you give a police officer that feels stuck, doesn't have that backup plan, doesn't have that backup business, and needs to get out? They're burnt out. What's your take on that?
So we've actually tossed around the idea of building a class. Probably shouldn't even say this. Someone's going to steal my idea, but it's all right. If it helps cops, I'm all for it.
You're a smart enough guy to the point where they won't be able to match up with what it is that you put out.
Appreciate that. But we actually want to develop a class that helps officers start small businesses. You can go to LegalZoom and just be like, oh, I want to start a business, but like you could do it without that too. And like we want to do a class like, hey, here's what you need to do. Here's how you get your tax stuff, your EIN and all this stuff. Like, here's how you start it. Okay, here's how to market things and figure out what they're, and like help them start that LLC or whatever it is they're doing, because there is life after the police department. And I lived and breathed the job. I brought it home with me. Man, I'd be off duty. I'd see some fugitive somewhere, end up having to call and then activate myself and arrest this. I mean, I lived and breathed police work for a lot of years. And so I remember like, no, I remember when we first got take home radios, because when I came on, you had to check it out every day.
Yeah.
Then eventually we got take home radio. When I was a rookie, sitting around the house, listening to my radio to see what's going on.
Oh, you were in it like that.
No, I was in it. Yeah.
Right.
And so, now I would joke somebody for doing that. Like, oh, you loser, leave it,
Yeah.
But I remember being that rookie and was all into it all the time, And so, and I remember thinking like, there's no other job I want to do. There's no life after here. Like I could stay here forever. I was having so much fun. And if there's officers that get stuck starting a business, going into corporate America, I mean, there's so many things to do. Like my business partner, when, one of the things that he picked up doing was, doing financial planning for people, selling life insurance, things of that nature. And he started that as a little side gig. And so he's still doing that. And, with his experience in homicide all these years, he kind of ties into his homicide class. Like, hey, death is guaranteed. It's going to hit all of us. Make sure that when you're gone, your family is taken care of financially. And here's how we can do some financial planning stuff. Not we as in me. It's like a separate thing from our company.
Yeah.
But he ties that into, the death class from, having to go and make death notifications, and no one was expecting it. No one was planning for it. And then now they're financially screwed.
Yeah.
So for the officers that feel stuck, there's life outside the police department. If you're in a negative environment, you don't know until you dive head first.
That's
and
right.
And a friend of mine, he was in the police department. He started a security company, and the department said you can't have a security company and work here. It's a conflict of interest. And he left. Now he's got franchises all over the country, making buku bucks and super successful. And when I was talking to him, he said, "You got to bet on yourself, man. Dive head first, and you'll never look back." And it was words of wisdom. And there's, whether it's a small business you want to start or get a job somewhere else, there's life outside the police department.
I always say leverage the money from the police department. Take the risk.
Yep.
Bet on yourself.
I've seen some memes that say something to the effect of, go to work every day and work until you can make your money work for you, or something to that effect.
Yeah.
Like, I go there, I'm doing my job at the police department. I'm getting what I need from it to be able to make Pinnacle TCI grow. And then now that Pinnacle TCI can stand on its own, I don't need the police department.
Yep.
It's time to walk away. And I'm going to put all in on Pinnacle TCI.
Awesome. You gave me some swag. I need to go get it real quick because I got to put it on camera.
All right, cool.
All right,
go for it.
Go get it.
The shirt's orange because orange looked good on you in the Mr. Beast episode.
All right, we got a little cup holder here. Was it a cup warmer?
Little koozie.
Koozie, that's what they're called?
Yeah.
Okay. Pinnacle TCI.com. Is that where people can find you?
Yep. Yeah, we're it's pinnacletci.com is the website. Yeah, that's that pin there. It's got a little fidget spinner if you're
Wait, oh,
at the top there.
Wow.
Yeah.
Oh,
pretty fancy.
Oh man, I'm always like freaking tweaking all the time.
Yeah.
When I'm saying,
just be careful around small kids that will pull off. So you got.
Oh yeah, I'm not letting my kids see this. I'm not going to see it again. This is great.
Yeah, pinnacletci.com is the website, and then on socials we're at Pinnacle TCI LLC.
Okay.
So that's
Pinnacle TCI. And do you give out your personal page, or you try to keep it?
Yeah, my personal page on Instagram is. Yep, that's that was our old department patch that we actually designed that, and I'll share a cool story. So we got Lady Justice in the center because we're victim centered. She's wearing purple for domestic violence. She has the sword so she can fight back against the offender. And then at the bottom,
you want to hold it up?
Fiat Justitia is the Latin phrase for let justice be done. So when we designed this, we put a lot into it to be victim centered and kind of focus on what we do, which is why we have like child abuse, domestic violence, and sex crimes that we investigate. So our squad designed this ourselves. So we got input from everybody.
Thank you so much. I got to come up with like challenge.
Oh yeah.
Rack and.
Yep, and I
Pinnacle TCI patch.
It has a bicycle on there because I do the bike ride up to DC for Law Enforcement United every May for Police Week to raise money for fallen officers and their families, and so I put the bicycle on there for that, for the riding the bicycle up there.
That's great, man.
But yeah, for my personal Instagram, it's real_Brian W. So
_Brian. Okay.
Yep.
Make sure I highlight that in the details. It's a card, little business card holder right here.
Yep. We could call it a phone wallet or something on there.
Freaking hook me up, bro. Ooh, and I got some challenge coins. Let's
Yeah.
go.
Yeah, we got one from my agency there from the Special Crimes Unit, and then the other one's Pinnacle TCI's challenge coin, and those are brand new. You can only
Brand new?
yeah, these we had some old ones. These are the new ones here. Pinnacle TCI, and our hashtag is Cops Helping Cops, which we have on the back there. And only place that anyone's gotten these right now was in Austin, Texas. We did a conference down there with ROCIC. We did their homicide conference, and that we were giving these out there. But other than that, hot commodity right now.
Yeah, we love it. And my wife, she's gonna laugh. I love hoodies. I love sweatshirts.
Yeah.
I love t-shirts. I have trouble letting them go, especially when it has meaning behind it.
Yeah.
Or from a special person, such as yourself. This bag here. And we got the Pinnacle TCI t-shirt. Love it, man. Thank you so much.
Yep.
I was going to tell you off air, but I'm going to just share this.
Sure.
Because this is how amazing God is. So today, when I was at my men's group, I bought an orange in to eat while we did our prayers and all of our work. A friend of mine comes in with an orange sweatshirt, holding an orange water bottle.
Yeah.
Then behind him were 2 orange containers, and there was something else that was orange. And I was just going to keep it to myself. I said, guys, you're going to think this is weird, but I noticed that there's a pattern with orange today. I was like, I'm saying it because things like this happen to me.
Yeah.
And I can't explain it. And if I don't say it or point it out, then I sound like I'm crazy.
Right.
You bring me an orange shirt.
Yeah. When I asked you what size you were, I was going to say, these are the colors I have. What's your favorite color? Then I was like, he's getting orange because he had an orange jumpsuit in the Mr. Beast thing. So I was like, I'm going to stick with orange. Just have that little connection there.
Wow. So when I send this to the group chat, they're going to be like, okay.
Yeah.
Like my friend
start looking for the meaning. Better chat GPT what the meaning of orange is today.
Yeah. Or look it up in the Bible. Is there orange in the Bible for some reason? But listen, Brian, the interview was great. Thank you for coming. The conversation. I mean, it's really inspiring, even for me, somebody that's already gone from the job, but for you to build something up as successful as you have and use the experience from the job to give you that freedom, to give you that confidence, and for it to be backed by God. I truly admire you, man. And the fact that you made the trip up from Norfolk, I truly appreciate you, brother.
Small price to pay, man. I appreciate you having me on here and get to share my story, my testimony. It's all part of the greater good.
Yes. And if you don't mind, just share all your stuff again, because with the editing and stuff, I'm
sure.
Yeah.
Yeah. So our company's website for Pinnacle TCI is www.pinnacletci.com. On socials, Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn, we're at Pinnacle TCI LLC. And we're on YouTube as Pinnacle's Perspectives. We occasionally release some content on there and some investigative tip videos and things like that. And then for my personal Instagram pages, real_Brian W.
Excellent. Thank you so much once again, brother.
Thank you.
And signing off, the Purpose Over Pension podcast.